Hopefully, people can hear us, but we are nonetheless recording, and we are live. So, thank you everybody very much for joining. I think we're gonna go. I think we're gonna go right into it. This is just going to be a fun little webinar where we meet Cirdes and hear about all the awesome stuff Linkana is doing, and talk a little bit about data orchestration and data engineering in general. But probably if you're joining this, you know me. So I'm going to shut up and hand over to Cirdes.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here to talk about that history because it's a real journey here that we are going to share, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, man.
All good, all good. Um, cool. Should we dive in?
Sure.
Yeah. Over to you, Maddie.
Okay. Do you wanna me to lead the way, or do you wanna
Of
start?
course, please, please.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Linkana just to give our audience a little bit of context. Um, by my accent, you probably realize that I'm not from London, but I'm from São Paulo here in Brazil. We have our company Linkana. We went through Y Combinator, then we come back to Brazil, and we are attending a big enterprise here in Brazil. Basically, what we Linkana does is to handle all the documents and informations regarding suppliers in Brazil. So when a company that is our client want to onboarding a new supplier, they will go to Linkana, add the company identifier, and then we start to collect a lot of data and ask the supplier for more information to generate a risk score. And based on that risk, our clients are then able to decide if they want to do business with our clients. So we are that platform that everyone hates, because when you have to go to serve enterprise customers, you have to go through that process of sending a lot of documents. So it's very important to us to get as much as possible of the data ourselves, to not have to ask for suppliers. So we have been running for 7 years with 200 big enterprise here in Brazil, in LATAM.
Awesome.
A little bit about myself. I'm the founder and CTO at Linkana. Actually, Linkana is my second company. I already had a first one called Aventiki, and it was sold by another player in Brazil. So I am what they call a second-time founder.
I didn't
I'm
know that. What was your first company doing?
My first company. It was a ticketing platform like Eventbrite.
Ah,
So we made the Eventbrite for Brazil probably 15 years ago, and
wow.
I run the company for 5, 6 years, and then a competitor bought us, and I decided not to stay much on the company that bought my first one, and I have started the journey with Linkana to, start over everything again.
Got it. Nice. And obviously at Linkana you're CTO. So in addition to building the product, it's also data. It's
Exactly,
under your remit.
exactly. And for the context, I'm primary Ruby on Rails developer. I'm not a data engineer, so it's important to be clear and for the people to understand a little bit more about my decisions and what I was trying to achieve here. That could be a little bit different if someone is a data engineer. So um, I think about myself, that's it. We went to Y Combinator on the COVID batch. I was there in San Francisco when COVID strike, and we had to flew back to Brazil as fast as possible to not be locked down there. So yeah, that was my Y Combinator batch.
Crazy times. Crazy times. Right, SRM. I hadn't heard of SRM before I met you, Cirdes.
Me neither. I learned about SRM doing Linkana, and basically, like I said, I am the main point between suppliers and buyers. We are trying to make everything smooth as possible, as just a few documents for the suppliers to make that process a little bit more smooth. Probably you guys are used to go to platform like SAP Ariba or Coupa. So here in Brazil, we are connected with those guys. We handle all the data that are specific from Brazil, and you get that data. We have all the workflows that they are not good on doing that, and then we get that data and we put on Ariba or on Coupa. So
I see. That's interesting because as we've grown at Orchestra, we've obviously come into like contact with Cooper, and it's pretty. It could be improved, I think. Has like a retro look.
yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
And
So let's
yeah,
talk data.
okay, let's talk about data. And like I said, we do believe here in Linkana in a lean team, a small team that are able to move real fast. So besides have a lot of customers here, we only have 22 people as employees in whole Linkana. We also raised with YC, but we decided to not go to the venture capital path. So we brought back all our investors, and we decided to have all the control to run the companies as we want to run without any external pressure to doing so. So let me talk about what was the problems, what was the challenge that I was facing here at Linkana. And basically, like I said, I have to collect a lot of data from the government here in Brazil. The government released the information about every company in Brazil as a public data. So that's very important to our company. But the government just, release not well format data. So we have to get that every month and go through pipelines to transform that data, to test that data, because sometimes during the release of the new version of the data, the government made some mistakes and some data are missing, and you have to detect that before we are able to use that data on our platform. So that we have to test that data a lot. So when I was facing that problem for the first time was when I discovered DBT, and man, I fall in love with DBT because it they are saying,
Good, isn't
oh, you
it?
have to create model for your data, you have to test your models, you have to treat your data as a code. So it was, it makes a lot of sense to me. So I started to create a lot of models, a lot of things on using DBT and testing that data to make sure that I was not using invalid data on my platform. And I was I still using BigQuery as our data warehouse. And besides that large dump of all the Brazilian company information, we have a lot of small data that we need to verify. For example, there is a list of companies that was using child on, as employees, so that companies are flagged here in Brazil. We have the OFAC list, that's an international one, and we have to get all those data from a lot of different sources, and we have to make sure that those data are fresh, because if my customer go on Linkana and put a supplier there and we are not flagging correctly information there, it will be really bad for us. They will complain
Right.
about that, right?
It's so interesting. So I think it was yeah, it was interesting when we first met, because obviously you're pulling in this government data, and even though it gets updated, fairly infrequently, it sounds like a lot of the time the data's just wrong. So it gets updated on sort of random schedules again, and then obviously you had to test it, because if it's not right and you show the old false government data, then I guess you go into Linkana and put in like the name of a supplier, and it's just like got loads of incorrect information, um, which is obviously not good. Um, cool, good stuff. Um, I guess, where were you sort of like running, um, running these scripts? Because you're obviously CTO, right? Like if you wanted to take a Python script or do your data ingestion in Ruby, I'm sure you could. DBT is obviously written itself. I'm sure it wouldn't have been difficult for you to just put it on an EC2 instance or something. Maybe talk to the audience about how you evaluated your different choices.
Okay, so first, like I said, I was very satisfied with DBT, with what I had there, but the ingestion phase was I was doing with Google Cloud Run, and was a script that was running there, and I had to, after, go to DBT and treat the data. I have to move it back to a Postgres database so I could be able to consume that data inside my platform. So I had all those steps of injection, of transformation, and then moving back to a Postgres database to be able to use it. And I soon realized that I need something to make it happen, to call every step of the process and make it happen. And then I start my search for a solution. And the first one that I tried to use, it was Airflow. And I didn't like Airflow that much. I think the first thing that I noticed is exactly what you said about Coupa. Looks they looks dated, they look something that, are not well crafted, and it's really hard to deploy Airflow. Because of that, you have some managed instance on Google Cloud, for example, but it's very expensive. And
Composer.
Composer, yeah, exactly. And I tried, but I didn't like. Then I tried Dagster as well. It was, I think, 3 years ago. I tried Dagster, I tried Prefect, but I found it to be a lot of trouble, just to make something that's supposed to be very simple, just to call every step of my pipeline and give me visibility and make sure everything was running smooth, that everything was running the way I want. And they are very complex, but they are saying that I can write some transformation inside Dagster, inside a flow, but I didn't want that, because for me, DBT is the perfect place to make that transformation, to test my data. So it was too complex, and because they are trying to offer for me something that I didn't want, so I had that feeling. And then I decided to go for the simplest solution I could have, that was to use N8N to orchestrate all my data pipelines. And it worked, it was able to, call everything that I wanted to be called. And but for a while we spent we for a while I was doing everything with N8N, and I was it was working, but I didn't have good visibility of something went off. I couldn't see, the logs, what went wrong, in detail. So it was just a band-aid. It was working, but
But
was
you
not
could
properly done.
you could just build an AI agent in N8N to run all your data pipelines, couldn't you?
Back then, no,
Maybe
it
not.
was
Just
three,
like
4 years ago.
purely out of curiosity, how were you triggering the DBT part with N8N? Like, did you put that on like a Google Cloud function and trigger the
I
cloud
was
function, or
using my DBT was running on
GitHub
GitHub
Action or
Actions.
something? Ah,
Yeah, and I was able to trigger the GitHub action from N8N.
got it. But what were
So,
the like? I mean, like, how was that? Was that a good experience or?
when everything was okay, it's when I didn't had any errors or, on the happy path, it was awesome. But when something went wrong, it was it used to be really hard to understand the problem, because anyway, N8N was not built to solve that visibility problem. It was made for another thing, So I spent a lot of time with that, and then I decided to hire a consultant here in Brazil to help me out to make things right, because I got all those not conventional decision on how to make my pipelines. And they arrived here and they looked and say, oh, the DBT part is working great. The major problem here is N8N is not a good data orchestration platform. Maybe we should use something else. And then he suggests us to go back to Dagster. And I was okay. He suggests Dagster, and then I decided to give another try on Dagster. And then we spent, months just configuring Dagster, making, making it work with our DBT, rewriting some pipelines. And I was feeling that everything was slower than I was expecting. And then I decided to properly learn Dagster. And then I realized that they have what's called Dagster University. And I went through Dagster University, took the whole course there.
Oh,
And
you're a graduate.
yeah, I'm graduate.
Summa cum laude.
And I was starting to, run it by myself, trying to make some improvements. And I was struggling to make Python works on my machine because I'm not used to, to use Python locally. So I was struggling with that. I was struggling to, add a simple thing on Dagster just to make it call my DBT. And on N8N it was easier, it was easier to
Right.
run.
So even N8N was easier.
Yeah, totally. And
Oh wow.
was easier than Dagster because I didn't have to install anything. I just have
Right.
to call. So I was, feeling that I wasn't doing the things properly. I wasn't
Yeah.
doing the thing like I want.
I guess it's tricky, like being CTO as well, because you've got hundreds of customers and a product to build. I imagine it probably felt quite frustrating as well, being pulled in those different directions and trying to wrestle with Python. I don't know, Sadi, because I think just for the listeners, what I found so interesting about this was that this is almost like a product use case, right? Like obviously, if you wanted to take the data in BigQuery and put it in a dashboard and have a look at it, you could. But fundamentally, this has a much that the stakes are higher because it's not just internal stakeholders. Like this data goes back to Postgres. There's a reverse ETL step and actually gets surfaced to Cirdes, your customers. Um, I just thought, yeah, it's super interesting part of the use case.
Exactly, and it has a crucial role here because when you want to add a new supplier on our platform, you can just type the name and we go to that database and get the identifier. So
Oh, that's
if
cool.
yeah, if I don't have the data fresh, if I don't have correct data, my customers will not be able to do the main thing on my platform, that is to add a new supplier. So I think now you can understand how important it is to us, that process.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I guess all of this brought you to me somehow.
Exactly. So I was frustrated, and I remember that I was looking for, I want a data platform like N8N, that I don't have to write any code to make it run. And then I have found you guys on the internet, and it was funny because I was in the consultant for 3 4 months, and we didn't had moved uh too much. I was still using my old N8N because we couldn't uh get it rewritten in Dagster. And then I found you guys, and I said, that's it. I will take here 3 5 days, and I will be able to do what we couldn't done in the 3 months using Dagster. And that happened. I went there and I created my account, and I started just orchestrating um, my whole pipeline, because everything from my pipeline was already ready, was ready to be used. So uh, I just had to, you know, learn how to use Orchestra, and I was happy that I didn't had to go to the university to learn how to use,
Sure.
because it was really simple, to use. It was like I was expecting, seeing a visual form, being able to add nodes, to add, I don't know how you guys called each part of the workflows, but in N8N is called node. So I was able to, replicate what I used to have there, and just have to deal with, call our pipeline step, not having to deal with configuring, to deployment, to write Python code. So that was uh, very impressive for me. So I called the consultant and said to him, "Hey, man, you need to follow me in a call with a guy from London, Hugo, and he will show us his platform. Take a look. I know that you love the other platform, but that one is the thing that I was looking for and couldn't find in 3 4 years, that I was looking around for a data platform that could fill my, what was I was looking for, that could solve my problem without adding complexity, because that's for me is the main point. Dexter can solve my problem, but it's adding complexity
Well,
for
you
me
could you, you
to
could solve
maintain
your
that.
you could solve your problem with a Python script, a Jupyter
Exactly.
notebook, of course. But it sounds like we saved you some time.
Yeah, a lot, man. Like I said, in a week, I was able to have to move all my pipelines from N8N to Orchestra, and it was easy. I didn't had to, uh, do a university course to learn how to do that, and I was able to, you know, move away from N8N easily. And now, when something went wrong, when GPT are not able to, run some tests because I don't know, data has changed, I'm able to inspect and see inside Orchestra what went wrong. So that visibility part is very important. I can see how many times that pipeline has run in the past week, how many of them failed or didn't or went successful. But in N8N, it's not easy to do that because they are not meant to be a data orchestration platform. So Yeah,
Yeah.
it saved me a lot of time, man.
Of course, of course. You're almost like the leanest of lean teams. I guess like, obviously, you and I both run startups, and let's say tomorrow, we both go to the moon, and we both have 10 times or 100 times as many customers, and you're sort of finally, or like we're able to, massively expand like the data footprint, like hundreds of pipelines, data engineering team. Like how would you feel sort of putting Orchestra into their hands and sort of saying, well, I've got to go do something else now, like.
Yeah, for me, it's very important to be able to understand things, and that's why I went deeper on Dagster and trying to learn how to use it. But it took me a lot of time. Even we are doing that right now. I'm bringing someone to take over all our data pipelines, but I will still be able to see, to understand, to contribute with him, because we are building inside a much simpler solution, and that is what I'm happy about. That if I have 10 other engineers, fine, but I will still be able to go there in Orchestra to edit something and make a small fix on my pipeline, because it's easy, and maybe that's coming from the Rails framework,
Mm.
because the what is behind Rails is simplicity. The GHH, the creator of Rails, is always saying about that you should look for simple solutions. And we, as a software engineer, we sometimes are seduced by complex things, to go to the hardest ways, but just to be proud of that, look that everything that I did,
Right.
how complex this is.
Of course.
No one are able to replicate that, but the beauty are on the simplicity.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I hear that. And yeah, like you guys don't back, or I mean, like you obviously back your pipelines to Git, but the main way you edit the pipelines is through the UI, isn't it? But I guess obviously if
Yeah,
you did, like if you did want to make things more code centric, you could, right? Because under the hood, Orchestra is incredibly simple. Like we're all looking at a graph of some boxes on a screen, but I think you're right about simplicity. I think we always wanted it to be simple. So under the hood, that graph we're looking at is like whatever 50, 60 lines of YAML.
exactly. And I saw that you guys just released the MCP, so
Yes.
I'm planning not to have to use the UI anymore, because right now I'll be able to craft things using
Mm.
MCP probably, right?
Yeah, yeah, creating pipelines. I think a big one is actually the automatic fixing. So let's say a pipeline fails, or somebody says, "Hey, like I have an issue with this supplier," right? Like if you have an agent that has access to the data running in a sandboxed environment, but then the agent also has access to Orchestra, so it has the full lineage, it has the full context of everything that's running, it should be able to work it out. And I know this is possible because some of our earlier customers have like built this themselves. It's absolutely insane. They can receive a ticket from like somebody random in the company that literally says something as nondescript as like, "Hey, numbers in my dashboard look off. Can you have a look?" And it'll go into Linear or the ticketing system, like it'll see who submitted it, it'll get their information, it'll go into Tableau, it'll see what dashboards they're subscribed to, it'll take those dashboards, it'll go into Orchestra, work out all the lineage, and it does solve it. But yeah, it's good to hear that you're excited on the MCP front as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. On our company, everyone is using cloud a lot, and that it's what we're envisioning here. For
Mm.
example, when a ticket arrives on Intercom that we use here, our support team will be able to ask Orchestra why something went wrong, and Orchestra will be able to answer them. They will not have to go to Linear to create a ticket to assign it to me, so I will take a look and reply back to them. No, they will be able to talk with Orchestra and get the answers himself. That is awesome.
That is so cool. Awesome. Um, I guess any parting thoughts before we open up the floor to questions? This has been great, Cirdes. I've really enjoyed this.
No, I don't think so. I already talked a lot, so if
That's
someone
what
wants to.
the audience is here to listen to, Cirdes. um, cool. Okay. I'll type in the chat. Questions, please. Let's see. Let's see what we get. But yeah. No one's brave enough to ask a question.
Do you have any question?
Yeah, I do actually. So obviously today, most of the workloads you're running, like the scheduling's driven by the data availability. So when the government make these public information sources available, how are you thinking about like filling in the gaps? So, for example, sometimes we have people come into our portal and they have like a data request, right? They see it, they try to submit a supplier, and the information is not there. That could fire an event that triggers like an orchestra pipeline that maybe sees in some other ways if it can get that data from somewhere. Like, do you have any like workflows like that you're thinking of, like more like event-based things?
Yeah, I never thought about, but it makes sense. Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting, but no. Okay, maybe maybe one then for the AI maximalists. So, you guys are using Claude a lot. I'm
Yeah.
going to assume that you're using it to like write a lot of code. Like, how else are you using Claude? How else are you using agents? Like, what do you want to use agents for?
Yeah, it's funny. We haven't been using Claude a lot for code, but the major change in our organization uh, came for non-technical people using Claude at Linkana.
Right.
And for example, our product development process are right now being made in Claude, completely in Claude, because my co-founder can connect the Linkana source to Claude, and we can connect to Linear through MCP. So when they had a problem, they start to talk with our code to explore solutions that before they he had to wait for me to say if something was possible or not. So we are using that a lot on product, a lot on to keep our knowledge base fresh.
Mm.
Every feature that we launch, we made Claude reveal our knowledge base to see what we have to update. And Claude suggests the updates, and then when we let they go there and update himself
Oh, cool.
our knowledge base.
And
That's
where is your knowledge base? Is that like
it's
Confluence? Is it Notion?
intercom.
Ah, interesting. Um, okay, cool. And I guess like where are you running Claude, or where are people running Claude? Is it mainly on their like desktops or like?
Yeah, on the desktop application that with we are always saying don't use Claude on your browser because you'll become limited to what the browser can do. If you are running Claude on the desktop app, you are able to share your local files. You are able to connect with a lot of MCP tools more easily. So um, the whole company are using on the desktop, and the tech team right is using on terminal to write code. But yeah, we are very deep on Claude right now.
Awesome. That's very cool. And I guess maybe just a final question before we wrap up. Um, we've actually been playing around with running Claude in an orchestra task. So
Mm,
we've built out like a Claude agent that basically does the same thing as like Claude code, where you say, "Hey Claude, do this thing," um, but it runs in our like Python container. And I don't know, something I found is that the nice thing about Claude is you can interact with it. So if it doesn't get something right, you can say, "Oh no, I don't like it that way. Do this, do that, whatever." And then after like a couple of messages of like 15 minutes or whatever, like you get the output. That obviously goes away if you're just running the SDK, right? It kind of has to get it right first time. Um, and I've also found like sometimes those processes I wanted to get it right first time could just be a Python script. So I don't know. Are there like use cases like that you've identified where like Claude is almost like doing something just like on its own, like when something happens, like when somebody creates a ticket in Linear or like a PR gets merged or something else or
yeah, yeah. I didn't know that you guys was able to run Claude on inside tasks inside pipelines, but yeah, we are exploring something like that. For example, when supplier sends a document here, we are um, exploring ways to make our customers to talk with that document, for example, to ask questions on that document instead of go through a document with, I don't know, 20 pages, and read everything. They can just chat with that. So yeah, it's interesting that we are looking for ways to do that.
mm, interesting. Yeah, sounds like more like LLM use cases embedded in the product itself, though. I guess is your sort of priority.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Um, well, look, I don't know if we've got any questions. Oh yes, we've got one. We've got one. Lewis asks, "What are the biggest data challenges you think Linkana will face in the age of AI over the next 12 months?"
Yeah, I don't know if AI will change our challenge here, but even before AI, the challenge that we are facing right now is to you know update our main platform that consumes the data that comes from the government, and in a more strategic way, in a more efficient way, because right now we are going through every record and trying to update them. So we that's our challenge for the upcoming months, is to continue to improve our data stack for it to become even smarter on how we keep everything synced here at Linkana.
Awesome. So keeping things as efficient as possible, so you guys can keep spending time on all the fun SRM stuff.
Exactly.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, look, Zodie's like, thank you again for taking the time to do this. I think it's been a really, really interesting and insightful session. I guess everyone else in the audience, you know where to find us. We will drop a few links onto the various places that we've posted this. But I guess all that's left for me to say is goodbye from me. Um, I guess, Sardis, if you've got any parting words.
That's it. Thank you so much for inviting. I love to talk about Orchestra and what we are doing here at Linkana. Thank you, Ogo. Thank you, Luis.
Awesome. But yeah, have a great week, everybody. I don't know about you, but in London the sun is shining, so we're gonna go out and enjoy that soon. So yeah, thanks again, Sardis, mate. We'll talk soon, and yeah, see you all
Bye bye.
in a
Thank
bit.
you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.